All right, welcome back to Branching Out. Today we're going to talk about a question that every business owner should ask themselves. Not just we focus on trees, but not just trees, but every business owner should ask themselves, what's holding you back from growing? And there are only two possible answers. The first is that you are demand constrained, and the second is that you are supply constrained. That's it. Everything else is just simply noise and BS and business mumbo jumbo that we come up with to justify where we're at. So that's what we're going to talk about in this episode. Let's go ahead and break this down. So if you're demand constrained, that means that your business doesn't have enough customers. And you might have crews, you might have, office staff, you might have time, your trucks are ready to go, but the phone just isn't ringing for you. And this is where I want to talk about a concept that's called customer acquisition cost, right? CAC. You'll hear business people call it CAC, but basically, your customer acquisition cost is how much did you spend on marketing divided by how many new customers you received. And that's going to give you an idea of how much it costs you to acquire a customer. And the reason that customer acquisition cost is so important is because you want to be able to, and I've talked about this before on other episodes, but you want to be able to install a lever into your business, right? So that you can turn like a water hose, you can turn up the pressure when you need to and dial it back when things are getting out of control. If I was to tell you, right, your average job, well, let's run this math. Let's say you spend $5,000 on ads and marketing, right, in a month. And in that month, you landed 10 new customers, right? So I spent $5,000 and I got 10 clients out of it. Your customer acquisition cost is 500 bucks. The reason that that's so important is you can then say, if I needed 20 customers, well, maybe I just need to spend $10,000 on marketing. And so that's the lever that we're actually going to be able to install in the business when we understand our customer acquisition cost. Not to be confused with ROI or return on investment. Similar concept, but this is looking at the question of how much does it cost me to get a new job, to get a new customer. Now, this is where it can get a little serious is you don't just want to know your customer acquisition cost, although that's super important. You also want to understand your lifetime value, LTV. You'll hear in business nomenclature, right? But basically what LTV is how much money can you expect to receive from each customer on average over the lifetime of them being a customer of yours. Now, if most of what you do in your business is one time, you're going out to perform a service, you do the service and you likely never hear from that person again, then your lifetime value is going to be pretty close to the average ticket sale. So if it's, 1500 bucks to remove a tree and that's about your average ticket, your lifetime value is going to be pretty damn close to 1500. Now, if you're in a recurring revenue business, like you're doing plant healthcare, for example, your lifetime value, you have to figure out how long does my customer actually stay with me. Now, if they're spending, I'm going to use made up numbers here, but if they're spending $100 a month, right, on your service, and they normally stay with you for 12 months, well, then that would mean that your lifetime value would be $1,200. So you're looking at over the entire lifetime of a customer with you, what is that value, right? The reason that it's important to understand what your average ticket or your lifetime value is that you want to be able to compare it to your customer acquisition cost, because we don't just want to double our money here. We want to at least have a 4-to-1, right? If you're doing phenomenal and you're at a 10-to-1 LTV to CAC, then you're absolutely crushing it. But that would also be sort of an orange flag. We're not going to call it a red flag, but that would be an orange flag to tell me that you could probably spend a little bit more money on marketing to increase the amount of jobs that you have coming in. So in a nutshell, from a LTV to CAC ratio, 3-to-1 is healthy. You're making $3 for every dollar that you spend on marketing and ads. 4 to 5 to 1 is good. You can scale that. And if you're 10-to-1, you're underspending. It's time to pour some gas on the fire. And we talk to a lot of business owners that, unbeknownst to them, are running a 10-to-1 LTV to CAC. And, when we actually break down the numbers, we figure out, oh, well, you're only spending $2,000 a month on ads, but you're running $1 million business. It's time to increase that. If you run this math and your LTV to CAC is 1-to-1, you need to raise your hand in the comments because we'll help you out. Something's broken, you're losing money with every sale. So you don't want to scale that, right? Now, that's a topic that I feel like I know me personally, I talk a lot about is about how to acquire new customers and, what is the customer acquisition cost? How much did you spend on marketing? I know I talk a lot about that on this channel, but I wanted to talk about something a little bit different today, which is what if leads are not the problem? Right. I had a conversation with a business owner the other day and, we were talking about marketing. It was actually a sales call. We were talking about marketing and I was telling him, all the things that we do and how we can generate, business for clients and all of that. And he said to me, well, I can't take on any more work right now. I'm booked out 3 to 4 weeks. And I think in many people's heads, I think especially business owners, when we hear or we think about, man, I'm booked out 4 weeks, it almost feels like a pat on the back. It almost feels like I don't need any help because I'm doing so well with my advertising that I have business just pouring in more than I can even handle. And that is a good thing. That means that your business is not supply constrained, right? Or rather, not demand constrained. It means, though, that your business is supply constrained. So, what do I mean by that? Is if you're booked out 4 weeks and you don't have the ability to service these customers that would be coming on board, then effectively you cannot grow your business. You're stuck at right where you are revenue wise because you can't literally take on any more work. So the next logical step would be let's figure out how we can be more productive so that we could then amplify our marketing to get even more leads coming in. And in our industry, in the tree business, that might look like acquiring more talent. It might look like purchasing better equipment that would allow you to run more efficiently and do more jobs per day. But I also want to talk about a formula that we don't really consider. It's less obvious in our industry, which is talent acquisition cost. So most of the labor that we're going to be looking for is going to be lower skilled labor. Now you might have to, look for things like foremans and climber, and there's a lot of nuance and there's a lot of specialty that goes into the industry. I'm not taking anything away from that. But when we think about what does it actually cost us to bring somebody on, like a high skilled person, to bring them into the organization so that they can help us be more efficient. Maybe you're thinking about adding a new crew. What is it going to cost you to get an operator? What is it going to cost you to get the grounds person? What is it going to cost you to get a climber? So there's a formula that I want to introduce here. It's basically how much are you spending on jobs ads, plus how much are you spending training this individual, plus how much internal time costs is associated with this, divided by your total number of new hires. So I know that was a lot, but this is your talent acquisition cost model. So for the breakdown, if you spend $600 on job ads, right? Like whether you're posting, I would prefer to post on Facebook for our industry, but maybe you're listening to this and you're in a different industry, maybe LinkedIn, which obviously your job ads are going to be way more expensive, or Indeed, or wherever you're actually advertising the employment opportunities. So let's say that you're spending $600 on advertising for the position. You also might have $1,200 in referral bonuses that you have within your staff. You might have $800 worth of interview time cost, and it's going to cost you $500 to train this individual, right? You think about all the things that go into training, the loss of productivity from if you have them shadowing, there's money associated with that. And out of all that, you hired 2 people. Okay. So that means that your talent acquisition cost, that totals up to, I did the math, so you don't have to, $3,100 divided by 2 is $1,550 per hire. This tells you what it really costs you to grow your workforce. Now, time out, because I know for a fact there's a lot of people, at least a couple, that have listened to that and said, dude, I get people for free. I don't need to spend $1,550 to acquire somebody, like to bring on talent, right? That's absurd. It's crazy. But let me pause you there and let's think about every single business. As a business owner, doesn't matter what the business is. When I bring somebody on to my organization that actually is contributing to the organization, they are making me money, right? And so, not unlike acquiring a new customer where you're going to get money coming in from them, if I bring somebody on to my staff they are going to be producing revenue for me in some fashion. And so now the question becomes, is this new hire that you just made, are they bringing in more than they cost? So if they're producing 10K a month and it costs you $1,500 to hire and train, that's a no-brainer because you got your money back and tenfold within the first month. And sometimes it might take you 3, 4, 5 months to see an ROI. But if I bring that person in and it only costs me $1,500 to bring them on and train them and all the things, right? And they're doubling their revenue and salary, I'm okay with that formula, right? Because they are making me money and they're helping me to grow the business. So why is this important, right? Especially, if you're in the place where you've got a solid crew, you're booked out 4 weeks. Why in God's green earth would you want to go out and spend $1,500 to bring on more people, right? And that's just one person, right? So that's based on this math. Your results may vary. It's because of the scalability, is that everything comes back down to mathematics, basically. And so if I am in a position where I am demand constrained, I can take an honest assessment and say, okay, in order to fix this problem, I would need to invest this amount of money into bringing on more talent. That will allow me to say, okay, I can have a very logical conversation with myself or maybe with a friend or a business partner to say, it's going to cost me $6,000 to get this new crew together and optimized and running, right? But that will also allow me to do twice the amount of volume or close to it. And so is that trade worth what I'm going to be losing in the short term? Most of the time it is. Now, I also want to talk about, in our industry anyway, sometimes your real issue isn't people, it's the equipment. Maybe a new grapple saw, a crane, or a skid steer might actually double your output without adding a single employee. That is a capital solution to it's a capital solution to a supply problem. So essentially, if I had to hire an entire crew and pay their salaries or buy a piece of equipment that would make me twice as effective, which one would I choose? Well, I can tell you then it comes down to like what's more of a headache, managing an entire team or managing a piece of equipment and all that. So if the cost is relatively the same, I'm probably going to go with the equipment. Now, there's going to be different times when I need to deploy different resources, but that's all that this is. That's all that business is in general. This is about strategy. It's about deploying a limited amount of resources, money and time. Those are the only resources, right? Against an unlimited amount of possibilities. And that's an Alex Hermosi quote. But basically, there's an unlimited amount of things that I could do with my business, with my customer base, with my advertising, but I only have so much time. I only have so much money. So I can't spend $10 million on Facebook ads because I don't have $10 million. I can't spend all day and night knocking on every single door in town to see if they need tree work because I don't have that much time. Right. And so I have to be really focused on the things that give me the most leverage in my business. And that's where, it comes down to understanding what your customer acquisition cost is and what your talent acquisition cost is. So if it's demand, if you're demand constrained, meaning that you don't have enough jobs to keep your folks busy, then you need to start tracking your customer acquisition cost and you need to dial in your LTV to CAC ratio, your lifetime value to CAC ratio. If it's supply, you're booked 4 weeks out, then you need to calculate your TAC, your talent acquisition cost, and look at ways to unlock capacity, whether it's people, processes, equipment. And once you identify the constraint in your business, it then gives you something to fix so that you can then grow the business. I'm going to leave it there because I wanted to keep this pretty short. But if you found this episode helpful, send it to another business owner that needs clarity right now. And if you want help figuring out your CAC, LTV, or TAC numbers, your CAC, LTV, or TAC, reach out. We do this every day. We're happy to help. Again, I'm Justin. This is Branching Out, and I'll see you on the next one.